The initial decision, it's many years now, it's like 14 years back. I was young and I was looking for positions, and I thought Louisiana State University is a well-known university and this is a great opportunity that the position was open, and they were looking someone, working on harmful algal blooms, so it was the right time for me to apply for the right position. So that was kind of a little bit of a luck, a little bit of a good timing and everything. But why I'm here for 14 years, it's because I'm happy here.
And the way I came here is that Dr. Odom came down in my last semester at University of North Carolina on a Sea Grant site visit. And he told the people here, Dr. Van Lopik was he wasn't the dean, but he was director of the center. He said, "You guys need a systems ecologist, and I have just the person." And so Dr. Van Lopik called me on the phone and asked me if I wanted to apply for a job. So I never officially applied for any job in academia, and I really didn't plan to come back here, but I talked to my wife, and she was hugely pregnant, and she said, "Well, go down." It was like in the fall of 1970. She said, "Go down, you'll see the folks, you'll see my family and your family," and because we aren't going to be going down. We're not taking our annual trip. And so I did, and I came down and interviewed, and they offered me a job right there on the spot as I was leaving the building on the third day of my interview. And I think part of it was I wasn't that serious about taking the job because I thought I was looking into some other things. And I got back and my wife said, "Take the job." And so here I am.
I've been at LSU for how many years? 36 years or more. Because I arrived at LSU in 1984. But I joined the Department of Oceanography and Coastal Sciences and this college as a tenured professor in 2006. But even before I joined the department, I had already known a number of CCNE faculty, or at that time it's called Marine Science faculty. Such as Harry Roberts and Gene Turner and Bill Patrick and Greg Stone and S.A. Hsu, Irv Mendelsohn and Sam Bentley, just to name a few. These people are like the who's who in coastal research in America. And I was always amazed by the amount of brain power behind the doors, in the labs and in the offices. Every time I walk down the hallway of this building, and I was really amazed by the kind of scientists, the caliber of people working here.
When I graduated in physics, as I mentioned, and I went there to play basketball actually, and but I got into physics, and all my buddies were going to NASA when I was a senior, and I didn't particularly want to be stuck in a lab, and they were not going to be able to go out in the field and do things that I like to do. So I was always interested in geology. I had a rock collection when I was a kid that would fill this room easily. And I had a Geiger counter, and I had a ultraviolet light, and I was always collecting fossils. And this was my hobby when I was a kid. And so when I got to be a senior and took a couple of geology classes, I said, "Well, I really like, maybe I can take physics and make that with geology and make that work." So the guy who was teaching at Marshall at that time, his name was James Ray Wall, and he was a recent graduate from LSU. And he had taken a 2-year job assignment at Marshall, where I was. So I had taken the classes from him, and he said, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go to graduate school? And I was starting to look at schools and see if I could get in. He said, you just forget it. You've got to go to LSU. And I thought, well, if he's sold on this, and I started looking up LSU, and truly, they had one of the best geology departments in the country at that time. I mean, they had some outstanding, H.V. Howe that really did fundamental work in microfossils in the Gulf and set up, biostratigraphy, really, in the Gulf. They had R.J. Russell, who started Coastal Studies Institute and was world renowned for his work in physical geography. And they had Jim Morgan, who worked on and many other people who were really well known in their particular parts of geology. Plus, they had the Mississippi Delta here and the Mississippi River, which were just wonderful laboratories, and they still are. So I was sold from the very beginning, even before I came down here. And then James Ray Wall was from Macomb. We came down to meet the department head and see if I could get an assistantship. So we came through Mississippi. Of course, he knew all the honky-tonks through Mississippi, and we stopped at nearly every one, and then spent the night in Gulfport, where I had a fantastic seafood dinner. And I thought, boy, this is not bad. And then we came to LSU, and I met the department chair, and he showed me around, and I met several of the professors, and starting that next semester, I came to LSU, and the rest is about a 60-year history here.
Well, it was all luck, because when I have a PhD in physics, and back in the early 70s, people in the Coastal Studies Institute wanted to get into remote sensing. And for some reason, they said they needed a physicist, so they talked to people in the physics department, and here I am as in the oceanography department. I originally started doing remote sensing, but eventually moved into doing physics of the ocean, physical oceanography.